Well, my name's Lianne, so I work for Clydebuilt Home Improvements and I'm the operations manager throughout the business.
Awesome. So, Lianne, as I was saying, I just really wanted to get a conversation with you about Business Pilot, your experiences with it. So we're going to talk about the system, and we'll talk about the team at Business Pilot as well. But I think a really good place to start is actually what was life like before Business Pilot, because otherwise we haven't really got a sort of comparison. We haven't got the context. So if you could just explain what was life like for you guys before Business Pilot, what were you doing? What were your processes, your systems, and so on?
Yeah, so before Business Pilot came on board, we were very much a paper-based company, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And again, obviously, with us being a windows and doors retailer, it was very difficult because potentially like a fit date would change numerous amounts of occasions depending on if it came up through a supplier issue or if it came up through a manufacturing issue, because we do manufacture quite a lot of our own products ourselves. So having down on a bit of paper a fit board, for example, just the smallest kind of item, which is the fundamental of our business as well, we would have to then typex it out, have to then rescan it, rewrite it, hand it out to multiple different departments, and then to make sure that everyone got that communication. And then we were very much a spreadsheet orientated business beforehand. So each of those changes manually on paper then had to get put through onto spreadsheets, allowed everyone to make sure that nothing was missed. Like obviously the customer had all the goods in on time. So it was very, very time consuming.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, very tedious, and also communication could have potentially been missed through a certain department as well, which then was actually having kind of repercussions onto customer satisfaction at the end of the day. So without having Business Pilot system put in place, we actually did find it was kind of creating more issues than what it needed to be necessarily happening. Yeah.
So, you know, everybody who says to me, believe it or not, we were paper-based, they seem to have this impression that they were probably the only ones and everybody else had these amazing systems. When we first started Business Pilot, one of the challenges that we thought we were going to come across a lot more was actually how do we get people's data out of other systems? You would be shocked at how many people actually have systems. You know, they just don't. It's spreadsheets, it's whiteboards, it's files. So actually, and I know you guys, I mean, you guys are a sizable company, you know, so some of these guys, if it's a 1-2 man, you know, if it's 2 men in a van or it's a couple of fitting teams, that's not too bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not too bad. You guys were a sizable business, you know, and are a sizable business. So, okay, so at some point, you guys have obviously thought, look, we've got to do it differently, and that's obviously the Business Pilot bit. So what would you say the biggest difference then is for you guys now since those days, having taken on Business Pilot?
I think, to be honest, it's the true indication of what the job actually has given us in return as well. So from beforehand, without having Business Pilot, we weren't able to access a report to say how much monetary value are we having in on a certain day or a certain week. We collect our final balance once everything's 100% complete as well. So that monetary value, trying to have it written down and on bits of paper and spreadsheets, and we did miss some payments, which then obviously that kind of affects the revenue of the business as well. So by able to access that one report that gives you absolutely every single bit of information that you need to have, the invoices are all there, the dates of when it was to be collected are there as well. So I think that is our biggest kind of success with Business Pilot, to be honest. Is the fact that we're able to access all that at just a couple of clicks of a button as well, and we can filter down the necessary information that we particularly want to zone in on. So like in particular reports, it gives you like all the information you need to have as well. But if a certain department doesn't actually necessarily need to know all that information, we can filter it down and give them the information just for them to focus on, so they're not getting overwhelmed with information that's necessarily not necessary to them as well. So I think, to be honest, that is one of our biggest successes that we have had. Plus, with going back onto the Fitboard as well, we were working week to week. on the fit boards. So now we're actually working throughout the whole year. So we're managing to schedule our jobs right down into the end of the year as well. So then when we're running an on-order book as well, like the MD of our company can actually see everything that's physically scheduled. So everything, we can see what's coming in for the rest of the year. So we can budget more. We can actually look to each of our departments and say, from sales, for example, like we need to have more from this certain area. So there's so many aspects on it that we can actually kind of funnel down and actually filter down to each of the departments as well. And we can hold the department heads more accountable for their roles and responsibilities as well.
I think that's really key. So Business Pilot's obviously got all that info, but actually too much information just becomes information overload, and it's less useful than if you didn't have it sometimes. I think the key, which is what you've just described, is actually it's having the right level of information for the right person at the right time, and I think that's one of the things it does really well. And people talk about, or we talk about by installers, for installers, all that stuff. And I think if ever you can see how this was created and is built by installers, it's there, because the guys know what each person in the business is going to need to know, so I think that's really key. They get the right information so they can drill down. We have so many sort of stories. The last interview like this I did, or chat, not interview, the last chat I did, I was talking then with somebody and said, have you ever actually analysed the cost savings that customers have made as a result of Business Pilot? And I said, well, actually, no, not like across the board, but we get so many stories where it might be somebody who says, we've actually found thousands of pounds of over invoicing that we've just missed before because we didn't have purchase orders running properly with the alert if your purchase order and your invoice come out different, and it will alert you. So there's lots of stories like that. There's lots of stories like it saves us an hour a day, or we didn't need to replace this member of staff. But actually, we probably ought to be doing some analysis, because like you've been saying, actually having that information will save or generate you thousands of pounds. And otherwise it's just lost, and you don't know it's lost without having a system, I suppose, is the key. So, okay, so I suppose leading on from that then, to say like your favorite feature within Business Pilot. So if you look at all the features, what would you say your number one favorite feature of the system is, and why?
Well, now you're asking a question. See, to be honest, like I'm a big advocate for like Business Pilot. To be honest, obviously, it's the industry that I've come into. So I only joined this company a year ago as well, and Business Pilot wasn't getting utilised to its full potential.
Yeah.
So with that, I was literally like, keep going on at it to every department head, and like the information is there. If we give the information to the system, it can generate us so many different things. So to kind of narrow down on one feature would be, for me, particularly for my job and what I do, because obviously I cover across the whole board as well. So like even something as just as simple as creating like a task for a certain department member, like again, because obviously that just came out came out last year as well. It was like a new development, a new feature added on to Business Pilot as well. It just changes leaps and bounds, because I'm able to then go in as an admin and actually monitor all the tasks and see anything that's outstanding. So then I can actually then go down into each of the department heads and say, well, actually, your department still has X amount of tasks outstanding. It's now been over a week. Like, we need to get this chased as well. So I think that is like a really good key function if it's used correctly. Again, the purchase orders, again, is a very good one, because it flags up when everything hasn't been delivered. So it goes into red. So it's really a quick click of a button, pull through the purchase orders. You can literally go down all your supplier lists as well. You can see what supplier you potentially have to communicate with to find out what's happening with a certain order for a customer. It's great the fact that it has the fit date on there as well. So again, just that one purchase order report that you can run, it can tell you, well, if your fit date is on the the 30th, but your goods are not coming into the 31st, for an example, then that is obviously something we can actually look at. We can then move that fit date, communicate with our customers effectively, rather than it waiting on the morning of and thinking, oh God, where is that door went to? Because it's not come in from a manufacturer as well. So there's so many different elements depending on what part of the business that you kind of look after as well. So I think the feature for me, because I kind of have my toes into quite a lot of different departments as well, so I could say there's a feature for every single part of the department, so there's always a kind of a favourite feature for each of them, if that makes sense.
You've got the record now, so quite often I'll have people saying, I can't narrow it down to one, can I have two? You've just got the record because you've said I can't even narrow it down to two, which I suppose is a good, look, I suppose that's a good thing. And actually I think the key thing actually you brought out there is it depends what role you're doing, and within your role it depends what element of that role, so for one guy it was the schedule board, and he said literally the first thing I train people on is what the dots mean on the on your cards, as it were. So but that was probably because his main part of the role was scheduling the work. If it was finance, then he would have given me a different answer. So,
and I think that 100% is it as well. And from a reporting point of view, like each of the departments that I do, obviously everyone in the business kind of feeds into myself as well. So even down to like the sales director will then come to me and say, right, okay, from a sales point of view, what sales representative do I have to maybe pull in to do extra training on? Who's not meeting their target? So who's under, who's over? So from his point of view, like that sales board and like the MI reports for him is so important and so crucial. But then equally to, like you've just said, from the fit board as well, knowing about the dots and understanding, well, actually, are all my goods in on time? Am I going to have a delay? Do I have an issue on that particular job? Then it is just that element as well. So I think it is 100% depending on which part of the business that the person deals with as well. Because you could have, everyone will give you a different answer as well. But for someone like myself, I kind of dip in and out of each of the departments. So I've got my favourites per department, if that makes sense.
So I'll tell you one that's interesting, and it's just because I get, if you like, the reports that come out of the back of the system. And I can tell you that at the minute, you guys are you put through the biggest amount of fencer registrations through the system. And again, if you look at how you used to do your fencer stuff before the API in Business Pilot, I mean, again, I don't know how long that would have taken on average, per registration, but now you don't even have to do that. You're just clicking a button. So I don't know if you get involved in that bit of it or whether that's somebody else, but.
So it's one of my team members who does it as well. So again, obviously the amount of fit that we do per week, so we're doing like 50 plus fits per week as well. So each of those customers have to be fencer registered within that 2-week period. So again, it's very quick and easy. She literally just has to go onto the schedule board for the previous week. She can now export the schedule board onto an Excel document as well, so all the information is there for her. Whereas beforehand, again, going back to the manual piece of paper, she was having to write down all of the fits that went ahead that week, everything that's finalised, the dates that all finalised upon, and then go onto the Fencer website and register all those goods. But it was kind of clicking in and out of the contract as well. Whereas now you can export the fit board straight away. All the information is there that you need, so you can literally register each of those customers with the Fencer as well. And it's a job that went from taking potentially hours to do, now it's down to minutes. And our Fencer reports are all 100% up to date as well. Everything that's done the day before is all signed off for that week as well. So again, it could have potentially been someone who sat all day doing that. No, it's literally one of our customer service girls actually can take the phone calls and do the Fencer reports at the same time. So it's actually cutting out having to have an extra salary put in board as well. So from your point of view, from you were saying from the savings as well, it's actually saved us having to hire another member of staff, which again cuts into the overheads of the business.
And I think as well, all of these things, like when it comes to double entry, so that might be the way it ties into a window link like Focus or a Tommy Trinder or that sort of thing. Actually, it's saving time, but it's more than that. It's increasing the accuracy all the time, because you're not having that double key in, which, you know, we're all human, and we're all, you know, especially these days, we're all none of us are underworked, overpaid, are we? We're all the other way around.
No.
You know, we're all overworked, underpaid. So you know, and therefore we are prone to make the occasional mistake. It doesn't matter how good we try and be, it's going to happen. And when you have all these systems connected like that, it just takes away all that risk of errors, you know. So okay, so we've spoken a bit about the system. What about the team? I know recently, again, you had the lovely Rebecca came up. So, but more than just Rebecca, in terms of your experience of working with the people within, if you like, my team at Business Pilot, I wonder if you can just sort of talk about that.
Yeah, I think even down to the kind of first point when I was introduced into Business Pilot. So Ryan came up to Scotland. He came into the business, he met with myself and Scott, the MD, kind of sat down with us, explained the system in full to us as well. So again, this was a system that I'd never worked with before at all, so it was all kind of alien to me in a way. But he sat down with me, and even within that first period of actually kind of going on to Business Pilot and see what it is, I think it's a very easy system to navigate around. It's not a very difficult system. The fact that we've got the help function at the top as well, which brings you straight onto the YouTube link as well, which is again another great feature to have. So he kind of made it almost kind of like layman terms for us, which was great because it was something that Scott and our business at the point was kind of a bit nervous about, moving from a system or a paper-based manual way of doing things, because that's the only way that we'd ever known as well. So it was a bit nervousness around about it, but Ryan was very easy to talk to, was very reassuring as well. The fact was that we could actually do this, and it was simple to do. Showed us example of the way that he used Business Pilot as well, and the Fitboard in particular was one that Scott obviously really liked to see, the fact that obviously the rest of the year was scheduled out, so it was something he wanted to see, that so you could see accuracy throughout the rest of the year. Again, we went down to Business Pilot training as well in London, and we met yourself and all the team as well, which again was great to have that atmosphere within the room of having to actually put faces to each of the people we've spoken to over the phone. And again, just to build that rapport with everyone within Business Pilot. I mean, we can go into the support function, we can send an email over, and straight away we get an answer. We can make a phone call if we can't get anything through as well, and we always have that return email or return phone call as well, which if we are having any issues throughout the kind of period of the day, it doesn't really matter what time it is, we do always get that response, what we're looking for. Or if the person is unable to give us that response, they'll find out the answer for us. And they'll flag it to the developer as well. So, which again is a great thing to have, and we always do get the answer returned to us. I will say Rebecca's great, and she did not pay me to say that.
No, oh, don't worry. She is. You know, I think people talk about this. Business Pilot's been like, well, it's a massive success for us, but it's only a massive success not really because of the software. That's a byproduct of the team. You know, the software is only so good because the team are so good, and Rebecca's one of that team, and she's like my right hand woman, and I have to have a few of them to make sure it's so successful. So she's a star.
She was definitely, and very understanding, kind of took everything in when we had the one-to-one meeting. Like, I've obviously spoke to her before over the phone, but having her actually in the building and going through like each of the points that we were potentially not utilising to the best of obviously the system can do as well, and being able to actually sit down and have like a different kind of pair of eyes onto the system and say, well, actually, if you do it this way, this is actually going to save you a couple of minutes, but those minutes turn into hours if you're doing it for every single contract that we do have. And we've got thousands and thousands of customers, and we're continuously growing and growing with the business as well. And obviously with us now branching out into other products as well, so it's not just windows and doors that we are doing. We're now getting into conservatories, garden rooms, thermal tech, solar panels, And again, this system can hold all that information for us as well. So it's
But
not as if we have to then have a different system per product. We can put everything
yeah.
onto the one system, and it can hold all the information and give us exactly what we need. And that was down to like having the team sit with us, and we gave them the kind of issues or the pain points that we were having, and the team were able to iron it out for us and give us the answer. And now we've put it all into practice within a matter of weeks, and everyone's been able to have a clear indication of what's expected of them and how their department can perform as well, just down to having that 2 days with Rebecca as well, which has been great.
Yeah. No, and I think, again, like the training day you spoke about, funny enough, we're just planning the next one. And so those training days to me are really important as well, because like at that London one you talk about, there's another guy there, I don't know if you got to speak to them, but dual windows, and they have dual hot tubs, dual solar, you know, so pretty much what you're talking about. And they run the whole thing through Business Pilot. You know, it's not just for the windows and doors, it's any installation, you know, and I think that's really important, because we were predominantly window and door companies that use it because of the, I suppose, the legacy. Actually, it's any installation really. You know, so but what I really like about those training days is the way that all the different users can also talk, because it's great having like the Business Pilot guys, that's really good, but actually speaking to another installer who uses it slightly different to how you do, and you use it slightly different to them, and you're sharing ideas around, I think is really valuable. You know, I love the open training days, as we call them. I love those days, because everybody gets to talk, and it builds up that Business Pilot community that you know, I bang on about, because that's me. You know, I love that side of it. So okay, I mean, that's sort of fantastic. If you were, let's now think somebody, I suppose they could be still looking at Business Pilot, but either that or they've sort of made the decision they're going to do it. What would be your piece of advice to somebody in that position right now?
I think, to be honest, it's a very wide range system. It has a lot of kind of functionalities that can happen. However, take it step by step. Like, don't try and put every single aspect and element into the system all at once. It's understanding like what each function can do. Figure out, first of all, what you want to use Business Pilot for and what you want to get out of it. So if it is more from a scheduling point of view, or if it's more from a financial point of view, kind of focus on that first element and then work with that and layer on top of it as well, because the system is very much like an onion, and you can keep peeling it back. It just depends on what you want to use it for your company and to be successful with it as well. But definitely use the functionality or the support functions at the top, break down into tutorials that once get done as well, and see what you can actually do with the system before kind of getting into a bit of information overload, to be honest. Because trying to kind of master each element of it all at once is not ideal to happen. It's just like cut it down, break it down, and kind of go with it from there.
It's interesting, again, in some of these chats, some people have said appoint like your Business Pilot champion, we call them, appoint your BP champion, and then just dive in both feet. My advice, actually, I always say pretty much what you've said. I say, look, there's so much in this system that to try and take all of it on day one, you know, you're going to struggle, you know. So just peel it back, find the thing that's the biggest pain point for you. So it might be that, you know, you're losing money between purchase orders and invoices. Well, then get all of that on. You know, it might be that you're scheduling in things and then forever finding that the materials haven't turned up. Okay, well then nail that. You know, find the thing that's the most painful to you today. Use Business Pilot to fix that bit, and then the next most painful thing will arise. You know, that will become, okay, well, that's our biggest issue. Okay, we'll use it, because one thing for sure, Business Pilot will cover it all, but if you try and bite it all off in one chunk, that's some task. You know, the system is so big. And the challenge is, because you get all the features as part of the license, it's not like you're paying extras to add things on. The temptation is, well, I'm paying for it all, I might as well use it all. Well, and yes, you can, but I'd say, like you did, just do it in steps. That would be my thing. So one thing that we didn't pick up on is new features. We're always keen to roll out new things, and you sort of mentioned it earlier on about the new tasks being added. So what's your sort of experiences there in terms of how Business Pilot is developed over time and the new features added?
I think, to be honest, we've obviously seen the new features from last year till this year as well. Especially with the key cards kind of system, like on the actual Fitboard itself, so you can actually like click onto it. It gives you the second option to look at the purchase orders, so you can see all the purchase orders on that straight from the click of a button on the Fitboard. So I think that was a really great element to add on to. Rather than having to go into the actual contract itself and kind of go through those steps, it's all just literally on the one page in the one area within the system. As I mentioned obviously before, the task and the mention system as well is a lot easier to keep track of as well. With obviously features now adding on Zero onto that element as well. So we're launching that next month. So in a couple of days' time, we are launching that as well. So again, that's another great feature for us to start exploring to see how we can do that. Because again, it's not something that we have done before. So that kind of goes live as of the 1st. So I'll let you know how that goes when we go forward with it as well. But there's so many features that have changed, and I think even the system itself, you can see that that's continuously growing as well and multiplying. And we obviously have like a lot of fitters and kind of service engineers as well. And we've also got office staff. So depending on each of the licenses as well, having that feature of the fitter or the sales representative can go out and they can use Business Pilot throughout their phone or their tablet or their iPad, whatever they may be using as well, and been able to actually add on the documents onto it and add on a note, or even doing like a voice note as well, or a quick message onto there. So that's a great element to have. So especially with a sales representative, they could be in leads the next day, so trying to catch them on the phone about potentially something that happened the night before with one of their contracts. They can easily just put it on straight away, like at that point of sale as well. So it kind of cuts out that communication of having to then have a conversation with the sales representative if they actually are unavailable. So we can keep the business ticking on and moving on as well. So we don't have to delay any of the processes that happen. So the office staff can continuously move forward with their part of the job, and then we can catch up afterwards because the information's all there for us. So again, like, the features, they just keep growing with the business as well, which is fantastic for us to see. And if we do ever have like any elements and you might think, oh, actually we would kind of benefit from this, like I know we can easily send a message over to the support function as well and kind of give us our opportunity to say, well, actually this is something that we would use. Is this something that could potentially happen? And I know, speaking to Rebecca, she said that's something that you guys do actually speak about and you bring it up on meetings and development. If it is something that might potentially work for multiple businesses, you're happy to trial it out, which again is 100%. Great for us to have like a company who are willing to kind of listen to everyone and every different businesses as well.
Because your ideas just make the system better for everybody. That's the thing. It's I remember reading a book about Lego years ago, and Lego took a real dive at some point because they just weren't listening to their customers. They knew what to create. The problem is they didn't know, but they thought that they knew. And they really took a dip. I think this was like the beginning of the 90s, I think. And it wasn't until they started listening to their customers that they then picked back up again. And it's a real lesson to us. Actually, the ideas of all of the users together make our system so much better. So, it's a no-brainer. We call it the ideas board, basically. We have a big Trello board, and every idea goes on there. Even if it's one that we can't do today because of other things we've got on dev, it's not lost. Every idea goes on the ideas board. So no, it's good. Well, look, it's been really good to catch up. Unless there's anything else that you think would be valuable to share. I mean, that's been really good, and I value your time as well. So, I'm good unless you think actually I didn't speak about and it might be useful.
No, I don't. I'm pretty sure there'll be something I'll come up with at some point, but I think it is, and like honestly, like as I said as well, like from day one, from joining the business as well, like I was very much pushing for each department to kind of make sure they're utilising BP as well, and it really has like changed our company. It really has changed our processes as well, and it's made everything a lot more streamlined and a lot more kind of like the process stuff is put in place a lot easier as well, and it's makes my job a little bit easier, which is great. So yeah, no, completely happy as well. And again, that's coming from all departments within our business here at Clydebuilt as well. Like every single person is happy with it. So yeah, all good.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Lianne, and hopefully see you at the next training day.